So hey guys, what's up? Cell here. Right now I'm actually streaming, so if somebody hits me with bits or something, it'll pop up in a video, or who knows what else, firework goes off outside. But I told you guys I would show you how to mod the NES and SNES Classic. This will be a two-part video. I'm shooting them the same night while the stream's going on. I've got an awesome crowd here in Twitch at Cell Processing. Like X Cube Slice here, Emily's been here, and Jen Anderson's been here, so it's been a pretty cool night. We've been flip-flopping on games and stuff, but I got to Nintendo and I had the capture hooked up, so I figured, let's go ahead and make this video. We can do that. There's more than enough CPU to stream and do this at the same time, so let's get to it. So, first of all, I'm going to show you that I do have the NES Classic hooked up. The USB cable is hooked into the computer over here, into the hub. So as you can see right here, it is effectively as the way you would get it if you were to buy it from the store. So all the selected games and everything is right here, okay? So I have not modified it yet. Actually I have, but I modified it so we could, you know, get started. Now if for any reason, not on so much on the NES Classic, but the Super Nintendo, but just to be safe, say like you have save games, sometimes the save files could screw up with actually getting the thing converted to load more games on. So just to be safe, and if you don't mind losing some of your game saves, you can go down here and hit factory reset, and that's going to reboot the console and it's going to wipe all those saves out. So that's something you need to be aware of before, you know, you do anything like this. So what we're going to do right now is we're actually going to shut the NES off, and I'm going to make sure that the Elgato is set to not capture, because we're going to capture the main screen, which you guys are going to see my streaming software, because you know, I've got one monitor right now because the other monitor was being used for the Nintendo. So we have this little program right here called HackQi. And HackQi is what I use to add and remove games to the NES Classic. So you have about 300 megs of memory, so you have more than enough to add or remove any games that you want from the NES Classic. But the first thing you have to do is get it set up to actually be able to mod. So for the first part, there's actually a service menu built into both these consoles. And it's easy. It's hold down reset, press the power button. It'll put it into a service mode. However, most PCs don't have the driver needed to interact with that. So on HackQi, when you go here, and the first thing you want to do is called dump your kernel. Now when you dump your kernel, it's going to put it into a folder here. So for instance on mine, it put it, there's HackQi right there. Now the kernel, and you can see the SNES one here, is really important. This is essentially the operating system. This is the whole kit and caboodle there. You want to make sure that you save that somewhere, because if something goes wrong, you can always dump the original back in and your system will be fine for the most part. It's pretty hard to brick these systems, but you want to make sure that you save this. So to dump your ROM or dump your kernel, you're going to go here. And I know it's going to say it's already in place. It's pretty similar to, say, Flash. So we're just going to go ahead to the Flash process. Do you want a Flash custom kernel? Yes. So same thing with the dump. It's going to say here at the very bottom with this button here, it says install driver. You do that, it's going to open a command prompt and it's going to go through and it's going to install, and it'll say press any key and it's done. And then you're going to be able to have the NES Classic interact with your PC when in service mode. So we're going to go ahead and put it in service mode now. So I'm holding down reset and pressing power. The power light will not come on. Okay. Then you hear it do the, you know, like the sound for like a USB device interacting. And then you're going to start seeing a bar go on. And this is it actually flashing the custom kernel right here. So we're just going to let it work. It takes a little while for you guys on YouTube. This is just going to be a quick couple seconds. And then we'll be on to the next part. For everybody else, it's going to take a minute. Okay, so the NES Mini's done, and you just hit this, and now you're ready to flash. So all you have to do to flash is it's going to interact, and now when it picks it up after the flash, you're going to hear the USB chime in, and then you're going to see this little light right here. So hopefully everybody can see that. Yep. You're going to see this little light right here, and that means that you're basically ready to flash. So I have a certain amount of games that I'm going to add here. I'm actually also going to mess with some of the originals. So, say for instance, like Donkey Kong. Donkey Kong in the original NES, they were limited on the memory. It was actually a very early game. Came out on an 83, I think, with the original Famicom launch. And so they didn't have much memory on the carts, and they actually couldn't fit the entire arcade game on there. So there's animations missing, there's sounds missing, and stuff like that. And so Donkey Kong that we got on the NES was just a port of that years later. So we're missing things like the Pie Factory and stuff like that. So I'm actually going to take Donkey Kong off, and I'm going to add this one over here, Donkey Kong Pie Factory. And what Pie Factory is going to do is it's going to be the entire arcade experience with all the animations and stuff. There's still some stuff missing, but it's not as bad. Let's see. We're going to leave Batman on there. Battletoads, you know, I just really don't care. Contra Force. I'll probably take that off for right now. Little Samson I want to leave on. Mega Man 3 I want to leave on. Pinball's fun, actually. I'm going to leave it on there. River City Ransom. And as you can see, I have like a collection already. So all you have to do is go add games. Know where your games are at. So for instance, here's like my games right here. Say I wanted to add Alien 3, for instance, which I really don't, but we're just going to use it. It's going to add it in. If there's a problem with the game, say like the NES like Classic doesn't support a memory mapper, then it'll tell you like right off the bat. So for here, what we're going to do is we're going to hit Google. And this is going to find all the cover art that we need. And we just put it in there, and it's going to auto resize it and everything to the NES Classic. You don't need to really do much of anything. It's pretty easy. And then from there, we can just say sync games. I'll make sure this isn't selected though, because I really don't want the Alien 3 on there. Screw that. And I found out Star Wars is broke on their emulator for some reason. So, and then you can just like right click and say delete selected games if you don't want them on there anymore, and it'll get rid of them. You do have to have access to the ROM. It is suggested for something like Batman, for instance, that you do legally own the cartridge. I have to say that. I'm sorry. I don't really have to, but to cover my own butt, I do. So yeah, and then after that, all you have to do is say synchronize with NES or SNES Classic. Oh, I'm actually forgetting a couple things too, a couple options. So I want to make sure I do this right. So make sure your console type's set to this. It's going to tell you which one. This is NES Classic, so we're going to say that. You can actually add folders and stuff to it. I don't like the folders. I just like having the games in the row. Controller hacks, you can actually add it so when you press like the reset, you can like do select down, or you can set it to something else and it'll reset the console, so you don't have to hit the reset button, like get up and do it. You can set if you have like, so you can actually plug in, say for instance like the SNES Classic into the Nintendo, into the NES Classic, and then your X and Y buttons are like turbo A and B. Okay. So that's it gives you some nice things there to mess with. And then you can compress your games if you want to. You don't really have to. There's enough memory on here, unless you're like adding the whole 750 like plus games or whatever that the NES has. I think it's a little silly to do that. I'm probably going to play like a handful of games, so I don't really even focus on that. There's a couple other options here that you can mess with, but for the most part, you don't really need to. Then we have modules. I actually use one of these. So we can install a module. For instance, I removed the thumbnails so that, because if you add so many games, the thumbnails at the bottom spill over off the screen. And then they're like off in the screen somewhere before. So it's just like one of those things that bugs me. So I go in here and I remove that. You do have to reset the console in a weird way again. So I'll show you guys how that works here in a second. Let's see. What was the other thing? I said I was going to set this to 2 games. So we only got the original Punch-Out with Mr. Dream, or actually the other one. I'm going to add Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. So we have the Mike Tyson's Punch-Out version on there. So let's go ahead and synchronize. On the NES Classic, it just has a screen that says HackQi right now while it's doing it. And then it's going to reset itself. So you're going to see the power light go off. You're going to see the yellow light on the software go off. And then it's going to come back on. You'll hear the USB thing, and then you'll see the yellow light, meaning it's safe to work on next. So we're going to go over to the NES Classic so you guys can see what I was talking about. Okay, so like I said with the thumbnails, now you can see the games have been added, right? But here's the problem. The thumbnails spill off the screen by quite a few games. So it's just like one of those things, if it bugs you, it bugs you. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So we're going to go ahead and go back to the desktop. Okay, we're going to go into HackQi and we're going to fix that. So we can go in here with the modules. You have to turn the console off. And we're going to say remove thumbnails. Now another thing I was talking about is say music hack. You can actually go in and replace your own WAV file. So we were talking about Pantera. And hey, Livster, what's up, man? How's it going? We're doing a video right now for YouTube, just so you know. So you can do a music hack, and it's just a .wav file. So the music that you're hearing on the menu is just a .wav. So if you want to add like Pantera's, like, you know, walk, for instance, when it starts up, you actually can do that. Another thing, you can add a password so nobody else can, like when you start up the system, they have to add it. Nobody else can like use your system. The extra space thing I wouldn't recommend right now, and the SNES custom filters is just for the SNES Classic, and it's not that big of a deal. I don't use it, but I'll explain what it is on the SNES side of this video, or on the next video, I should say. So we're going to hit OK, and just like we did with the custom kernel, we're going to hold down reset, and we're going to press the power button. And it's going to build the custom kernel that's going to tell the OS that we don't need the thumbnails anymore. So once again, it takes a few minutes. In the interest of time, it's going to happen really quick for you guys. Okay, so it's done now. So there we go. So if we go over to the Elgato, you can see the thumbnails now have been removed. It's just a straight column through. If you were to add folders, it would just show like it would have the original games and then like a thing that looks like a folder, and then that's where your extra games would live. It does that automatically. You have to set it not to do that if you don't want it. That's what I do. But that is essentially how you hack the NES Classic to add extra games. It's not very difficult. It's not very hard. But any game that you want, like the NES Classic obviously doesn't have every game that everybody wants. So if that's a problem, most of the time you can just add it on there. I thought Castlevania 3 wouldn't work because it used the MMC5 memory mapper or something like that, which was kind of a weird one. There's only a couple games that used it, but I put it on there and it works great. So, you know, you might get lucky and your game might work too. So anyways, I hope this helped you guys out understand how to hack your NES. We're going to move on to the Super Nintendo next. So thanks for tuning in. If you like this video, leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Dingle my bell down below, whatever, you know, I'm very appreciative. So have a good one.